Hello, and welcome to this episode of EPRI Current. I'm your host, Bill Florence. EPRI is recognized for the strength and diversity of its R&D. That R&D is backed by EPRI's 3 world-class laboratory facilities, one located in Charlotte, North Carolina, another one in Knoxville, Tennessee, and a third in Lenox, Massachusetts. The labs provide expertise in materials testing, cybersecurity, electric vehicle charging, welding, high voltage testing, and so much more. Today, we're going to look closer at the work of the labs and focus on how EPRI's members take advantage of working with EPRI's R&D team. Our guests today are Dr. John Shingledecker, who's the Principal Technical Executive for EPRI's Generation Sector, and Diederic Godin, who's the Senior Manager, Technical Support and Optimization for Capital Power. John, can you just give us an overview of EPRI's laboratories and maybe focus on some of the work that's being done there, please?
Absolutely. As you said in your intro, EPRI has got laboratories now in 3 locations, and they're pretty diverse facilities in the research that we do in EPRI. So maybe take a little bit of a historical bent. EPRI was founded over 50 years ago as kind of a virtual research company in collaboration, collaborating with the best and brightest minds and laboratories around the globe. And we still do that today. But over time, we've really developed some really key laboratories that really focus on driving value to the members and to society and our public benefit mission. So as you mentioned, we have labs in Knoxville focused on our energy delivery and customer solutions sector, things like energy efficiency and those kinds of topics they cover there. We have a large 37-acre facility in Lenox, Massachusetts focused on high voltage testing, transmission and distribution research. And I come from, I would say, our most diverse facility here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we cover all aspects of production to end use of electricity, including our nuclear sector and our generation sector on the production of electricity and energy. The labs I work most closely with and support are our generation sector, which focus on topics like materials for power plants and everything from their performance to degradation modes like corrosion, to really understanding the science of the metals and alloys in material science, which really underpin a lot of decision making that utilities can make.
John, there are national labs operated by the federal government and some other labs around the country, but what makes EPRI's laboratories unique? What do we do well, or what differentiates EPRI from everybody else?
Yeah. So we work with our national laboratories. We work with universities. They all have great facilities and aims. At EPRI, what we really focus in on is that applied R&D, really transferring the technology to our members, which benefits the members, but also benefits society and ultimately, the end user, people that are using electricity and energy, which is all of us. So it's really critical.
And I guess one of the great things about having 3 laboratories is maybe the opportunity to do some sort of like either synergies or maybe some cross-pollination, do something here, do something in Lenox, do something in Knoxville, do something in Charlotte. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably it's more than 3 labs. It's 3 sites, but even in like Charlotte alone, we probably can have over 20 unique laboratories, depending on how you want to focus it. So even within our generation sector, we do a lot of work across our different laboratories. So most problems and solutions are cross-cutting in nature. They're not just a single thing. So we might use our metallurgical lab, for example, to do a failure analysis to kind of understand a failure mode in something that happened in a power plant. But then in order to really drive a solution, we might need to do testing with our non-destructive evaluation group to help plants figure out a solution in the plant. Or we might need to develop a new repair technology. So we might work in our welding lab to develop that technology. And then we might have to test it in one of our labs to actually test was that repair going to function before we put it in the field. So, we put all those pieces together to really do a comprehensive research project. And that's, again, another unique aspect of our labs in that we have set up these very specific labs and domain expertises that allow us to drive to, solutions in today's and, tomorrow's environment.
Diederic, let me turn to you now. First of all, give us a quick overview of Capital Power, and then what attracted you or what brought you to the laboratories at EPRI?
Yeah, absolutely. At Capital Power, we have a very long history of relationship with EPRI, and also specifically in the materials program. So we've worked with the lab for many years now. So Capital Power is obviously a North American utility, and we work in Canada and across the U.S. So I have some examples, actually, a recent example.
Great.
Where we've actually approached the lab and they provided us with some excellent feedback. And that had to do with 3 of our different facilities. We were seeing some repair issues on the back end of the gas turbines. And, we had questions around the material weldability. How weldable was this material, the success of repairs, and trying to get a better understanding. And it was across 3 different facilities. So working with the lab, explained the issue, what we were trying to figure out and understand, we were able to send them samples from all 3 facilities and have the EPRI lab analyze and take a look at those materials in detail. What was really interesting is the feedback that we got is that it turned out to be more of a welding repair method issue than it was with the actual base material. And so that, for us, that was critical information because it drove our focus into a different direction, right? This wasn't a material degradation issue or an end of life type of issue, but it had a lot more to do with the repair methods that were being used at the time. So, that's for us, and that's a recent example that's brought us a lot of value. And, the expertise that we get back, from the EPRI, the lab staff is absolutely excellent.
I'm just kind of curious, why didn't Capital Power try to undergo all that testing themselves?
Yeah, it's such a challenge to go out because, when we go directly, to a lab, we can ask specific questions to a lab, but half the challenge is knowing what to ask for. What are the types of issues we're looking for? And some of these materials are fairly exotic. They're complicated, and we know that EPRI already has that knowledge and database, in their history of looking at these very specific power generation, components. So that allows us to make sure that we're getting the right results, right? And then we can leverage those results and take the right actions based on that. So it's been invaluable for us.
John, is that a common theme among other members approaching EPRI, and that's a reasoning why they use the laboratories?
Yeah, absolutely. Failure investigations, sometimes people would call it forensic type investigations. EPRI, we're not just drawing on an experience of taking a sample in the lab and looking at it. We've got the collective expertise of our research programs, which some have been operating for 20 or 30 years. So we're bringing that really industry knowledge. We are able to look across the industry at other failures that have been occurring as an example. And so, failure analysis, kind of that, it's not a direct member support. It also really drives our future research, though. I think that's the important piece of it from an EPRI standpoint. We obviously want to help the members, helps them be more reliable, be more safe, be more affordable, be more environmentally responsible with their assets. So it's a great benefit to them and to the public. But then really, we like to use that data to feed future research activities, as well. So, we're able then to take that and do more, take another step often after the project's over as well.
Diederic, you gave us a great example, just a second ago, but do you have any other examples of other work that you've turned to the EPRI labs and to conduct for Capital Power?
Yeah, absolutely. Another avenue that EPRI's made a lot of work recently is more on the web-based applications, the direct tools that we can use and interface with. There's a whole suite of web tools, and it's expanding on a regular basis. But just a couple to mention is the Grade 91 tempering tool. We do use that for repair plans in turnarounds, evaluating results. Another great example is the Grade 91 metallurgical risk calculator. That's again critical in our full understanding of the components and the component life and our strategies going forward. And I just want to stress that, these are tools on the web that we can interface directly with. So we know all the research and intelligence has gone into developing those tools, but we're able to just go on an on-demand basis and get those results on our own, right? So that's just a couple of examples there that are very valuable to us as well.
Yeah, Diederic, that's a great point about the web-based tools. What underpins those are a lot of materials data. And one of the other unique aspects that I failed to mention earlier, Bill, about the labs is that we're really effective at doing like long-term testing that is not cost-effective at a commercial lab, that even maybe a one-year research program can't conduct. We actually do multi-year research projects with long-term testing in the lab. And that data is what really underpins, because we're trying to make lifetime decision-making in utilities, helping make more informed decision-making about long-term material behavior. And so that long-term testing, that bespoke, really unique testing that's very specific, drives these tools that Diederic was really talking about.
What's critical for us is if, as we're, managing our components through end of life, having confidence in the material data that's being used is critical. So, we definitely leverage that knowledge in our life management program, as well as, any fitness for service evaluations or any kind of, engineering analysis that's done. Confidence in that data is critical. So I just want to echo what John was saying about the material data work done at EPRI.
Where are the labs headed? Where do you see EPRI's labs headed in the future?
Yeah, so EPRI is, constantly looking. Everything we're doing is driven by the energy transformation, and I'm sure you can go into the EPRI podcast library and learn a lot about different aspects of the energy transformation. And so the labs are really focused on that. In areas that I'm dealing with, we're looking closely at how we might start looking at materials interactions in hydrogen, for example. That could be a future topic. A space that we're very focused on across both our generation and nuclear sector is advanced manufacturing. EPRI's role as an independent body. There's very few independent bodies that are doing assessments of things like of advanced manufacturing. And so again, our goal isn't to sell advanced manufacturing. Our goal is to find ways to qualify it, develop specifications, build utility confidence that they have something that's a quality product that they could put in their plant. And so we really want to look at new technologies like advanced manufacturing, how that can impact the improved supply chain challenges, as an example.
Now, who are stakeholders for the laboratories? Who uses EPRI's laboratories?
Sure. So EPRI's laboratories serve, primarily our members. And so they serve driving, again, the value to our membership. And so the individual programs that are in EPRI that are funded, many of them engage with the labs to conduct their research. So that's the principal method. But we also have a wider group of stakeholders from the public and to the government. We do tremendous amount of government research in our laboratories as well. We bid on competitive proposals, as an example, to in areas that make sense, where additional funding, we can really leverage our members and our laboratories to then do even bigger and better projects. And so we see a lot of that activity as an increasing value proposition for our labs.
I was reading something else maybe about some additive manufacturing. Diederic, you just elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, EPRI is at the forefront of keeping the members up to date on the development of additive manufacturing. Of course, our focus is on the pressure part area. It can be used for many other components as well. But what's really valuable is several times a year, we get updates from EPRI on where additive manufacturing is with the various standards and codes. And that's what's critical. We don't have the capability of being in all those conversations, but we know EPRI is there. They're at all of these meetings, industry meetings, code standards. So we get regular updates and we know what's coming down the road. So we know there's huge potential with additive manufacturing. So we want to be there at the forefront when we're able to actually, leverage that value. So I just definitely want acknowledge the work that EPRI has been doing in that space.
I suppose I should have led that question off by first saying maybe asking for a definition of additive manufacturing. So, Diederic, I don't know if you or John want to take a stab at that, just sort of to clarify things for our listeners and viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, additive manufacturing is essentially 3D printing, and in the examples that Diederic's talking about, this is not nice trinket little plastic parts. And this is metal 3D printing predominantly, which can be used to be structural components that can go directly into power plants. EPRI has been kind of at the forefront on metals AM, not necessarily in its technology development, but in its application. So again, that's kind of where, again, the EPRI labs come in. How can the labs help the application of AM? And as Diederic said, one of those key technology vehicles is developing independent data on components and manufacturing, working with the entire supply chain to then help drive modernization in codes and standards. The codes and standards generally are essentially behind the time. Traditional manufacturing methods, wrought processes, casting processes have been used for hundreds of years in some cases. But AM, as we call it, AM or additive manufacturing, is very new, especially for the power industry. So, a simple example is work that we've done recently to evaluate a technique called powder bed fusion or laser-based powder bed fusion to make gas turbine guide vanes. And now it's used in industrial gas turbines, working with OEMs and utilities, original equipment manufacturers and utilities. In the case what Diederic mentioned, a very large focus is using some very new AM technologies that can make very large components, not possible even 5 years ago. And we're looking at how we can leverage that to alleviate many of the supply chain challenges that exist today in the procurement of replacement parts and future parts as well.
Oh, that's fascinating. That EPRI has that ability to be able to do that and now I think on doing some large scale projects for that.
Yep.
Diederic, I mean, just sort of maybe to wrap, thinking we're getting closer to wrapping things up here, but maybe some final thoughts on what it's like working with the EPRI Laboratories.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very obvious to any of the members that are in the materials program that the information that's available, the members, the experience, it's invaluable. So we absolutely leverage all of the information that we get back from the program. There's a lot of information available that you can reach into the EPRI resources, the website, the web tools, and extract that information and use it. We use it in our repairs, maintenance, long-term maintenance strategies, life management. But the other aspect too that I think is very valuable to pass along to other members is being proactive with reaching back out to EPRI with your specific issues. I think that the real value there too is coming to them with real life issues and problems that we're seeing, because then EPRI, they can help solve that issue for us, but bring real industry issues back to EPRI. Because if we're having an issue, there's a good chance someone else is having a very similar issue. So I would just say lots of great value, but make sure you bring your issues back to EPRI and keep them at the forefront of new and emerging issues, especially in the material space, and that is something that we do on a very regular basis. So that would be my closing thought.
John, any closing thoughts from you? I mean, in particular, maybe sort of like any advice you might give a utility that was contemplating using the EPRIs Laboratories?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think Diederic brought together a really key point we didn't hit on. The laboratories are not just these wonderful physical spaces and this really state-of-the-art equipment and unique capabilities that we have. It's really the people that work in the lab. And this is across all of EPRI. This is not just a generation or our expertise in the materials lab, although I'm partial to that because that's where I kind of came from. But, if you look across EPRI, we have hundreds of people working in our laboratories. And as Diederic said, they're there to engage. And we, as EPRI staff, want nothing more than engage and be an extension to some degree of every utilities team. We want the members reaching out to us because we are then better informed about providing short and long-term solutions. And we kind of take a look at that whenever we have challenges in both cases. So I think Diederic gave a great call to action for people that are interested in EPRI or that are maybe not as engaged. And the labs are one of the best vehicles for engaging EPRI because we can do direct, tangible things with your equipment, with your people, and we have grit and people that are ready there. And so really the people piece is as much as we talk all about how wonderful the labs are, the people make it happen. And I want to highlight that we have a great staff across all of EPRI to do that.
Great. Well, thank you both for joining us today on this episode. It really was, I think, a very interesting topic and learned a lot. I think for more information about Capital, you can go to www.capitalpower.com. Is that correct, Diederic?
That is correct.
And if you want more information about the EPRI Laboratories, there's a brand new site that's just gone up here recently that goes into a lot of detail about EPRI's Laboratories. And you can find that at www.epri.com. If you then look under research, there's a tab there about the laboratories. We'll also post a direct link in the show notes that you will be able to access. And then we'll also on screen for those of you who are viewing this on YouTube. So that's it for this episode. Again, I want to thank you both, John and Diederic, for being our guests today. And we look forward to talking with y'all again soon. Thank you so much. That's it for this episode. Bye-bye. If you like today's show, we invite you to subscribe to our podcast. And feel free to share the podcast with your colleagues and friends. For more information about EPRI, please visit our website at www.epri.com. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter at EPRI News. Together, we are shaping the future of energy.